Hello and welcome everyone to a new tier list video, where today we go over the tier 6 creatures of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, Horn of the Abyss. Now do keep in mind that this is my subjective tier list. It is based on thousands of online competitive games and, my experiences. Your experiences with the game are probably different and you value some units over others compared to me. Do keep that in mind. Mike and T-Gorgon suck, get over it. So let's get right into it. Black Knights are up first, okay? And these guys are really, really wonderful. They are very, very tanky for an unupgraded tier 6 unit. So if you get them early from a dwelling, they're actually going to be able to tank everything for you very well. I like their aesthetics. They're actually really, really cool units in terms of how they look. That actually is a big plus for me. They're very enjoyable to use. They don't make it to like the best power stack, but they're okay. I wouldn't actually rate them that highly. They are C tier. However, if you were to upgrade Black Knights into Dread Knights, you would get a monster unit. This guy is a war machine, one of the best stats of any tier 6 creature. And also, they have the special ability to double damage. And of course, both the units also get the curse. But curse is not really that relevant. It's sometimes a little bit influential, but most usually not really feelable. But whenever you double strike with these guys, then holy hell do you feel it. Everything immediately collapses. These guys are fast, tanky, damagey, but they cost so much, okay? Necropolis usually has strategies that it would go apart from Dread Knights. Both skeletons and vampires make for more appealing strategies and it's a more valid option in terms of cost efficiency as well. So you don't see these guys often, despite how good they are. But whenever you fight them out on the field, and even if you go for them, they're really, really, really good. And just because they are outshined by literally the best strategies in the game, doesn't make these guys not a very strong strategy either. Next up is the Cavaliers. Cavaliers are much like the Black Knights, but I would say a little bit worse. They're also speed 7, they have 100 HP, they have decent stats, and they have Jousting. Jousting makes them do more damage the more you move before making the hit. So if you were to haste or have some speed arties, native terrain, specialty, you can stack movement and you can actually stack like a big hit in. That's pretty cool. It's actually a very useful ability. You get a lot of use out of it throughout the fights. They're really, really solid. They're really, really good. And if the tier 7 of Castle was not so blatantly much better than anything else in the game, then you would see these guys very often. And in most non-GBus maps, you actually do see these guys very often. HDM 1, 611A, you get wrap a few casts, and you're actually like good to go to clear the map. They are very effective. They are popular despite competing with angels. Like imagine, how good does a unit have to be to compete with angels and still have relevancy? These guys are amazing. I love them. Unupgraded B tier. And also, if you upgrade them, they become even more ridiculous. The speed just makes them And of course, speed scales the damage too. And they also get like 2.5 average damage as well from the upgrade, flat. Really solid upgrade. Can be upgraded for free in the stables. This is very, very powerful. A few Cavaliers can actually take any range guard, you just put 2 1-stacks and they immediately can kill many range guards like orcs, lizards, no problem, no losses, these guys will cover them. So yeah, really cool, amazing units. I would actually put them at high A tier as well. You see, I don't think that they are better than Dread Knights. However, the fact that they're used more, represented more, and have some cool special abilities, I feel like would make them more relevant in my list compared to Dread Knights, despite Dread Knights being more thematically cool and stronger as a unit in a 1v1 scenario. But that is not entirely what decides the spot on my list. So there they are. Next up is gonna be the Cyclops. Now, Cyclops are the best shooter in the game, okay? You heard it here first. These guys are nuts. For a shooter, they are super, super tanky, they deal a ludicrous amount of damage, and their availability is really high. So you get to use these guys, and whenever you use these guys, you're probably pretty happy, because these guys do a really, really good job being your power stack, Early in the game, you use some other ranged battle stacks, Master Gremlins, Marksmen, Grandals, but throughout the course of the game, you will bleed them away, okay? You will necessarily bleed them away. Maybe not in some very niche scenarios, but most of the time, if you get to like actual late game. And these guys will replace your ranged battle stack, and holy hell, did they do a good job at that. They are very tanky for ranged creature standards. They do a ludicrous amount of damage, and yeah, really solid, and they're very much available. They are a wonderful unit, HotA. Now, Cyclops Kings, on the other hand. Now, in order to the Abyss, the build path for Cyclops is the same as Shadow of Death, okay? You have to build Orcs, you have to build Ogres, and then you can build the Cyclops Cave. And to build the Cyclops Cave, you actually don't need to pay crystals anymore. Now you have to pay crystals for the upgrade. And no, it's not worth it. They get 2 speed, they get 2 attack skill, and 1 defense skill, and a little bit more shots as well. You don't usually run out of shots out of with Cyclops because they do that good of a damage. So that's not really an issue. The selling point of the upgrade is the +2 speed, but then again, for tanky shooters, you don't need speed that much. It's not enough of a selling point, and that's why you don't usually go for the upgrade. Also, you know, you get Cyclops from pickets, you can get them in really high quantities, but to upgrade them, you would actually have to go to a stronghold town, and you would have to go through that pretty abysmal build path of Orcs, Ogres, Cyclops. You don't usually do that, and the upgrade is not good enough to actually justify it. I would actually put Cyclops lower in the list because they're not available, the upgrade is not worth it, the build path is horrible. Like, I can rate Cyclops highly despite the build path being bad because they are available from pickets, so everyone can get a power stack, meaning that they're well represented despite the build path. But Cyclops Kings, on the other hand, is not well represented unless you include the build path. So I include the build path into my rankings, and that drops them down pretty tremendously, in my opinion. Next up is the Diamond Golem. Sorry for that. The Diamond Golems, I was really surprised about these guys. They are classified as tier 6. Wow. These guys are absolutely garbage. What a joke. They're tier 6? More like tier garbage. Get out of here. They can be used for, if you were to get a Golem Factory, you could use these guys for pretty effective Golem get-in, but such a meme strategy doesn't warrant a good spot on the list anyway. Next, we have the Ifriti. These guys are the backbone, the absolute backbone of any Inferno gameplay. You want to rush these guys as fast as possible, and they will do a really good job clearing most of the creatures. Downsides is that their dwellings are pretty hard to take. Killing 6 Ifriti is no joke when playing Inferno, okay? Because if you build Nagas, which you usually want to, then you actually have to shoot your units if you want to hit the Ifriti, because you only get hit by the middle of the ball, so you can't actually target ground and fire away from your army. You actually usually have to kill your army. There's a way to go around it, but morale actually is very dangerous in this dwelling, more so than any other dwelling, I would say. So yeah, they're not easy to farm. They're also like not that extraordinarily good. The reason they're the backbone of Inferno army is because most other things kind of suck in Inferno, you know? So they go for like the least sucky unit. So despite being the best thing that Inferno has to offer, they're really not that great. Now where they shine is of course Ifriti. You get 3 of these guys, you launch Armageddon, you don't die, opponent dies, you're happy. You know, there's plenty of units that can replace that. MGLEs, Phoenixes, Magic Elementals, they're not very special. Then again, they're a fire unit, they're very thematically, well fit for that. And because of that, I mean, I really like these guys, and I use them a lot when playing Inferno. They are B tier, at least in my opinion. Next up is the Ifriti Sultan. These are very ludicrously nuts, okay? you usually, even if you don't get a power stack of a 3Ds, you would usually want a few of these, because when you get to the end game, you get some relics, okay? And the super speed of a 3D lets you cast Armageddon first usually. The outspeed Angels, which are usually the fastest unit that the opponent has, because, you know, they probably farm like a few constants at least. And, yeah. These guys get to give you speed, they're immune to magic arrows, so they're really good on a side hero to, you know, contest the opponent's scouts without getting killed. So they can like mow down the opponent's heroes pretty easily, even on a side hero. They're very, very effective, and they are amazing units, both in terms of utility, in terms of being a power stack. Whenever you counter these guys out in the field, their fire shield, which reflects, I believe, 20% of the damage that you deal to them. It could be 25. Yeah, 20 or 25% damage back to the attacker. So you can't kill these guys for free with melee creatures, and if you fight them with shooters, then they fly over into the other side of the battlefield in a single turn and they block you. So you kind of have to have tactics whenever you, so yeah, they're really scary to face. They're really good when you use them. They are very good unit. As a power stack, they shine a little bit less than in other use cases, but there's so many amazing use cases for the Future Sultans that they belong in the S tier, in my opinion. Next up is the Enchanter, which I also was surprised to see as a tier 6 unit. You know, I did some research for the sake of my tier list, and I was like, damn, these guys are tier 6? They have 30 HP! 30! That's less than half of the second second least HP unit, okay? They are ridiculously squishy, but then again, these guys are a menace. They could destroy you. If you like cast haste against them and they counter with slow and then they walk like 2 turns in a row, they're gonna obliterate your army. And also, if you were to have a few of them from like a dwelling or a mercenary camp, they are extremely nice utility. They are very cool units. Very thematic, very unique effect, very dangerous when you fight them, very good when you use them, solid unit, A tier. Even by tier 6 standards, if they were like tier 5 or tier 4, I would say that they're S, but because they are as high tier as they are, the standards for them to be good, of course, increases, and that's why only A tier instead of S tier. Next up is the Psychic and Magic Elementals. These are pretty good. Nah, then again. Okay. So to build these, you have to build tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5 elementals from the Conflicts faction. And all of those suck. They're literal meat. Like just HP numbers in your army. They're not good. So the build path is horrendous. If you were to get a few of them, then they're kind of good utility. They don't take retail, so they can like deal a little bit extra damage. Also worth noting that they deal 50% less damage to the units that are immune to mind spells, which are golems, giants, titans, stuff like that, you know? Any undead. So they have like lots of weaknesses, pretty bad build path, and yeah. The good sides, where they AoE attack, where they don't take retails, doesn't make them into that good of a power stack, because they don't really deal a lot of damage either. I would say that they are C tier. If you were to upgrade them to Magic Elementals, their downside changes. Now they deal 50% less damage to units that are magic immune. So something like Black Dragons, less of a downside, because there's way less units that are magic immune compared to Mind Spell immunity. They, of course, keep their AoE attack, keep the fact that they don't take retaliations. They're pretty solid. Whenever you get the power stack of these guys, it's very hard for the opponent to handle them, because, you know, they're magic immune. They can't really do much against that, unless they were to have, of course, the Black Orb, which is usually not very popular. It's a very common thing to just sack and into on Archimerchants or Altar Sacrifice. Usually the gold or XP is put to better use than the Black Orb usually is, unless you're like in the mid game where you still need to maybe slow the dragons in the Utopia, or maybe you know that the opponent is going to be having a power stack that will need to be slowed or something like that. But still, they're not much of an upgrade compared to Psychic Elementals, and I would put them high in the C tier, because a power stack of these can be menacing. It's just that they're not that common, and they're not like that strong. Most of the other tier 6 units would be able to outbrawl them pretty easily. So there we go. Next up, we have the Nagas. Basic Nagas, let's talk about them, okay? Tier 6 unit, their build path was dramatically hastened, made better by Horn of the Abyss. Now you do not have the Magi dwelling as a prerequisite anymore, meaning that you can go for your usual build for your tower, Master Gremlins, Stone Golems, Genies, and Nagas. Nagas on day 4. Wow! 110 HP and takes no retaliation, does pretty good damage. They are very common in non-Jeebus tower gameplay. I would say they are core to it. They are literally what makes the faction. Very amazing units. I would put them like this already in the B tier. They're pretty slow, so they're clunky to play. Despite being the figurehead of the tower faction in the early game, they're still they're kind of hard to utilize in some scenarios. And because of those scenarios, I would put them not any higher than B tier. Now, if you were to upgrade them to Naga Queens though, let me tell you this unit, okay? They are the best, absolute best tier 7 unit. They are like, tier 6 unit, but they actually outmatch many of the tier 7 units, even 1-to-1 ratio. From the upgrade, they get notably 2 things, okay? Apart from like a little bit of stats. They get 2 speed, making them way less clunky. The clunkiness and the situations that, Nagas couldn't handle, Naga Queens handle with ease. The speed is dramatic increase. It lets them use their no retail ability way better, way more effectively. And they also get 50% more damage from the upgrade. Unheard of! 50% more damage? Hell yeah! 30 flat, by the way. 30 flat. Insane, ludicrous damage. Absolutely amazing. What a cool power stack. Seen in almost every single game of tower, even if you don't get a dwelling. Even 4 of these is like already like 2 angels, so like a tier 2 conservatory. In 6 Antenne, so H3DM1, templates like these, they are the core unit that you play around with. Very, very often. If you get a dwelling of these, you can build a power stack that will be like no other that you can build from the tier 7 units. Apart from, farming massive creature banks, but that's a whole nother talk, okay? So yeah, the most powerful of the tier 6 units, super good, very often utilized, absolutely amazing. What an upgrade. Next up is the Nyxes. Ooh, these guys. These are the Cove new units, tier 6, okay? And they have a very special ability. They ignore defense, and the unupgraded Nyx, I think, ignores. But no, they don't ignore defense. They ignore attack skill from the attacking unit. The Nyxes ignore 40%, and the Nyx Warriors ignore 80%. So your attack skill doesn't matter when you attack these guys, meaning that your like 40 attack hero is gonna be like having no attack when it comes to dealing with these units. So they're one of the most potent late game stats, okay? Even in the early game, they're like really good, but they are not as potent in the mid game as some of these others. I would say that they are very, very common, by the way, when it comes to Cove gameplay. Usually Coves want to go for 2 stacks, that is Corsairs, and then there's Nyxes. Nyxes are, of course, the meat, the actual HP, and the tankiness of the faction, meanwhile Corsairs are more the damage, the utility. So yeah, these guys are very well represented, they're very good at what they do, they are not that expensive, their build path is good, they're solid all around. I would put them in B tier, and if you were to upgrade them, which you should always do, okay? Even if you're upgrading 2 or 4 Nyx, they are so good, they can just straight up tank a Utopia. 4 Nyxes are likely to tank a Utopia for enough time for you to kill most of the dragons with your like Corsairs or something else. Ludicrous units, such good value, the most threatening late game power stack, if you were to get like 50 plus of these and then just anti-magic, these guys will eat any other stack alive. They are the best brawling unit in the game. Super ludicrously nice. Especially when the stats get high. The higher the stats get, the more use this ability has, of course. I would put them S tier. Because they are less good early mid-game than Niagara Queens, I would put them actually lower, despite them being a more favorable power stack to have like later into the game. So there we go. Next up is the Manticores. Ooh, these guys have okay. Listen, they're pretty bad, and they're not very often used, unless you're like, you have nothing but a Manticore lair in your biome, or wherever you're playing. But, you know, they have like a pretty tough time. The cats are competing with dragons and monitors, and also evil eyes. They're also competing with evil eyes, actually. And holy hell, are they the worst of the possible options that you could go on dungeon? Monitors are way better. They deal about the same damage, but you get more of them, meaning that they make into a way better power stack. The times where you would want this is maybe when you get like quite a few pickets, so you would go for Scorpio Cores for the sake of speed, because speed is very necessary to farm Wolf Raider pickets in order to farm Cyclops. But apart from that scenario, you don't usually go for these. Manticores are pretty low damage, pretty low HP, not very tanky, not very speedy. They are pretty tragic units. They're detail. And next up is the Scorpio Core. When you upgrade them, they gain +4 speed. Tremendous. But, you know, they don't utilize it as well as the Naga Queens would, because they don't have the damage to support it. And neither the no retail ability. Well, actually, they do have no retail ability 20% of the time, but, you know, clearly not efficient enough. And yeah, their other ability, as I already mentioned, is to stun a target for a few turns, 20% chance. The stun ability is kind of niche. Whenever it happens, I guess it's kind of cool, but it's not something that you play around with. And the speed alone doesn't warrant the upgrade, usually, unless you like already have a power stack of these. They're not very well utilized as utility because they have no special ability like the 3Ds do to ignore fire magic. By the way, the reason I mention ignore fire magic as a good utility skill is because they end up making you avoid magic arrow. And magic arrow is the way that side heroes take fights. And, you know, these guys are pretty good at it because they are like, ha, magic arrow? What's that? Meanwhile, Scorpio Cores just die to a few. So they're way less, well, utilized on side heroes. Not as good utility. Not really good cost efficiency. Pretty bad. Like, when you upgrade the Scorpio Cores, they are okay. But not that good. I would put them in C tier. They do get, like, a decent bump, but, you know, it's not enough. Next up is the unicorns. Oh man. Unicorns. I don't know what to do with you. Basically, they are the tier 6 unit of Rampart. They have 90 HP, and they have the special ability of having 20% chance to blind the unit. Now, the 20% chance very notably comes from the average of what player ends up using them for and what the AI uses them for. AI blinds you every single time that they hit. Meanwhile, the player never blinds. So yeah, that's how the 20% average came to be. Kappa. They are a menace to fight against. No, they're actually not that much of a menace to fight against. Like, some Freddy Sultans is gonna be like way harder. But they are sometimes, very randomly, suddenly, be very hard for like no reason. And it's very hard to predict. It's, you know, whenever you can't play around it, it can be like really scary. We have a new video published of a few moments where unicorns ended up going berserk. Absolutely nuts. Like blind. I'll link the video in the description. It's a very cool one. 1 minute short video. Really cool moments. Despite those moments, these units actually have a decent build path. Their build path is like pretty cluttered. You have to go Homestead, Pegaside Dwelling, and then the dodges. So they have like quite a few prerequisites, but these are prerequisites that you would usually want to build anyway, whether you're going for unicorns or not. And if you buy a few, they're pretty good utility. If you get them from dwelling, which is actually easily takeable, unlike the 3D one, for example, then you have like pretty nice, good, decent utility units. They're usable, decent. I would put them at C tier, no more. Now war unicorns are far more royal looking, a really good, decent upgrade. They gain 20 HP, making them 110 HP total. Really solid, really cool. Keep their blind ability. Yeah, they're scared when you fight them out in the fields, but you don't usually go for this upgrade. Most usually because you don't build a unicorn power stack to begin with. But when you do, you're not that disappointed. I will put them in B tier. Some of them. Next up is the Vyvern. Okay, listen. These guys suck. Honestly, they're worse than Manticores, right? They have less HP, they have about the same damage. The only selling point of this unit is that they're mass available, okay? But mass availability, I know that I said the mass availability is the core selling feature of the demon, but that's because it's the mass availability comes from their ability, you know? It comes from the unit's ability, not externally from the map. Meanwhile, these come externally from the maps. So I will rate them as like an actual unit on its own. So Vyverns suck. They're so bad. They have no redeeming qualities. They're slow, they're squishy, they don't deal exceptional damage. There's nothing that good about them. Well, actually, a very good part about them is because is that Fortress has a really good build path. You know, you want to know how you build Wyverns these days, okay? You start the game as Fortress, you build a Wyvern nest, and you build Wyverns. Wow. And you have tier 6 units from the very get-go. So, yeah, that's pretty good. But not enough. You usually don't build them day one anyway, because you want the Serpent Flies to make your heroes faster. You want to upgrade your null so the fights are easier to take on your null power stack from Draken and so on. But now listen here. If you were to upgrade Wyverns into Wyvern Monarchs, these guys get +4 speed and really big damage increase, and that makes them into a super wonderful, amazing super speed, super damage power stack. These guys are super relevant. They are so much better than Wyverns, actually. Permanent Expert Haste and like Permanent Bless would be quite the feature set for a unit to have. And that's basically what they get from the upgrade, making them really, really good. Whenever you farm a big stack of Vyverns from a hive, you should really be looking to upgrade these guys. The upgrade is very influential, and they don't even feel like the same unit. They are so much better, enough better to put them at the top of A tier, in my opinion. Super solid, very nice. So, let me know what you think about the tier list. And don't forget, subjective, my tier list. You know, I'm just sharing what I love and why I love them. You might love some other units, okay? Maybe you had a precious game where you used Diamond Golems in combination with Armageddon to absolutely mow down the opponents. And you know what? You could put them in S tier, and I will support your decision. But for me personally, this is it. So, thanks for watching, and till tomorrow, where we go for the grand finale, Tier 7. So, till then, bye-bye, guys.